and get started. Welcome everyone to the third quarter GIS community meeting, and appreciate everybody taking the afternoon, part of your afternoon to be with us. My name is Richard Wade. I am the Deputy Executive Administrator here at Tenris. And joining me today is Felicia Retiz, the Director, Gayla Mullen, Strategic Mapping Manager, Joey Thomas, Elevation and LiDAR Specialist and Coordinator, and Lauren Kirk, Parcel and Address Point Database Coordinator. And we're all going to be giving little updates on what's been going on here since last time that we talked. You know, we're in the middle of July, and this is kind of vacation month. So we, again, we know there's a lot of people who are not able to be here and attend, but we appreciate you joining. So we'll go ahead and give you a little update on what we're doing here. So we're going to have just this opening comments, some things I wanted to let you know about before we actually get started. Then we'll go straight into our project updates, let you know what Tenris has been working on and what some new things are coming around the corner as it relates to data. Also too, again, the thing I always look forward to is roll call. Again, I do feel like that maybe there's a lot of individuals that aren't going to be available. We'll do the best we can. We are really interested in learning about what y'all are doing out there, and not just what Tenris has to provide as updates, but wanting to know what y'all have been working on, and you know, if there are issues or solutions we can provide, we would be happy to to do that and team you up. Also too, as we give these updates, feel free to drop a question in the chat bar so that we can see that, and we'll try to answer those at the end of each project update best we can. And if we miss you, don't fret. We will maybe come back to it if we see that we've overlooked it. But when you get into the roll call side of things, what you do is just raise your hand. And we'll call on you, and you have the floor. We'll open your microphone and you can say whatever it is you want to say. So really hope you take advantage of that. I know from a Tenris perspective, we'd love to hear about what you're doing and what you have to say and how we can help you. Then we're going to go into our FDST, which is Flood Decision Support Toolbox presentation with Christine Blickenstaff of USGS. And this is a presentation you're not going to want to miss. This has been something very exciting that we've been working on with them, and some of the things that we've been put together that she will demonstrate, I think, is going to show the power of working together at all levels of government, and what we're able to produce and create is nothing short of amazing. I think you're going to be real excited about what you see, and then we'll just go back through and check the questions, and we'll make any final announcements, and we'll have our closing remarks. So that's how we plan to do this. Before we jump to the next slide, I think what I want to bring up, and that a lot of people have asked us about, you may notice that if you visit our website, that the forum Save the Date has actually been removed. And one thing that we have been really struggling with is finding a home for the forum this year. As you know, under COVID, the Pickle Center actually closed down, and that's where we've had the forum ever since. We've been doing it since 1987. It's always been there. So they closed down, and we didn't really have a home, and we've been shopping it around at different locations, and unfortunately, nobody had the openings of the time that we normally would have our forum. So we had to make an executive decision this morning to move the forum into the March timeframe. We are so far have secured the week of March 7th through the 11th, which is right before spring break. I think it's going to be a beautiful time of year. And as far as I know, we're not competing with a lot of other conferences that usually happen in the October timeframe. We still don't have a home secured yet, but we do think Pickle will be up and functioning by then. So that's an option. And we are also looking at a couple of other facilities. One is the Holsworth Center here in Austin. That is just an absolutely gorgeous place to have it. So we'll be talking to them as well to see if maybe we'll change it up a little bit this year. I don't think you would be disappointed if we had it over at the Holsworth Center. So we're going to be making some decisions here in the very near future about the home. But apologize again deeply for having to move it. It's just that we didn't have a place to actually have it. And we are now 2 months or so to the forum, and we couldn't make it happen, I think, even if we wanted to. At least we couldn't do a caliber show that we would like to give to y'all. So please, scratch out the October timeframe, put in the March 7th through 11th on your calendars. That's when we'll be having it. More information is going to be coming out about that on our website as soon as we make some formalized decisions. So thank you for bearing with us, and we promise we'll make it a good show for you no matter what, and we're going to get this thing back on track. I think one other thing that kind of came around was this kind of resurgence a little bit in COVID. We're not 100% sure what things are going to look like now in October. We were hoping things would be getting better, but they actually tend to be going a little bit south on us as it relates to that. So we feel like now March gives us a little bit more time frame and breathing room to understand what's going to be happening then. So that's what I wanted to say about that. But please join us for that. Keep your ear to the or keep an eye on our website. We'll let you know what is going on, and we'll keep you posted. So thank you for that. And with that, I will move on to our project updates. And first on our list will be Gayla Mullins. So take it away, Gayla.
Hey everyone, Gayla Mullins from Tenrith here. I guess I just wanted to follow up quickly, Richard, with that I am looking forward to a fourth quarter community meeting in October that we will plan to have with that forum move.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have your statewide imagery updates. And so for the Texas Imagery Service, this is our 6-inch statewide imagery service that we stream to participating entities via AppGeo and our content provider Hexagon. Hexagon are the ones that provide the imagery for us, and we've been so happy that we have been under contract with them for almost a year now for our Texas Imagery Service, and we're really happy with the content that they are providing, and of course the reliability of our service from AppGeo. We do have statewide imagery in there that were flown last year, all of 2020 for the entire state, are in the Texas main layer of the service. Just this month, earlier in July, we had an update of 13, almost 14 urban areas that were flown earlier this year in the January-February leaf-off time frame. So that are available now, also in the Texas main layer on top of that 2020 imagery. And the 2020 imagery are leaf on. So I can't emphasize enough how excited we are about the 2021 urban imagery, that those are leaf off, so we can see any of our man-made features through the canopy. And then we're in the planning stages, of course, for our next urban areas update for 2022. So we'll be, once we get past this biennium and fiscal year, which starts on September 1, we'll be able to breathe a little bit and can start looking at what those areas will look like. They'll look very similar to the urban areas that we flew in 2021. But we might be able to do some tweaking there for 2022. Also, the next statewide update will be either 2022 or 2023, and this is dependent on the NAPE schedule, and so we will keep you updated on that, but we won't go any further than 2023 for our next statewide update at 6-inch. Again, feel free to please contact me if you're interested in the service. Go to the webpage, get trial links, and you can join the service at any time at a prorated rate. Next slide, please. So these are those urban areas. Everything in blue is the 2020 imagery that were flown last year, and everything in orange is the 2021 imagery that were flown earlier this year, and then the Austin area is coming to the service very soon, within weeks. Next slide, please. And here is our cost model for the service. We have a lot of state agencies that we are very grateful are providing the bulk of the cost for this service for us. And they come in at the minimum tier, and then if they start using the service a lot more, then they rise in their level of tiers and annually. We have a cost annual flat fee for state universities per department or university-wide, and then regional agencies such as a river authority or a COG can come in for a flat rate of $15,000 annually, and a local agency such as a city or a county may come in at $6,000 annually. So we hope these are good price points for you, and just know that it's only available to government entities in Texas and their contractors. So please let me know if you're interested in participating. We've had a flurry of interest recently from a few cities, so I'm really excited to be able to add them to our list of participants. Again, you can go to our site to request free trial links at any time, and you know, if you needed to do a trial at one point and then months down the road you want to check it out again, that's totally fine. You can resubmit those, and we want to work with you to be able to find your comfort level for coming on board with the Texas Imagery Service. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the Imagery Service is that for those that are current participants, I did send out the renewal letters for the beginning of the next service period, which starts September 1. So if you didn't see a renewal letter, please let me know. And if you could please, if you haven't already, write me back just a quick little note letting me know your intention to participate or not. Hopefully you will keep on with the service this next service year, and when you let us know that, then we can better plan for the next service period. So I really appreciate that. Next slide, please. So this is probably the last time I'll update the 2020 NAPE on the community meeting series. We've had the compressed county mosaics in for quite a while. These were all flown last year in 2020. So just if anyone is having any confusion at all, this is the same imagery that were flown for NAPE that are in the Texas Imagery Service, just at a coarser resolution. So the Texas Imagery Service gives you that 6-inch pixel resolution, and the NAPE imagery are at 2 foot or 60 centimeter pixel resolution. So these are available for download. They're in the public domain through the National Agriculture Imagery Program, which is run out of the USDA. And we are still pulling the DOQQs. Our IS team back at the Tenerife office virtually are continuing to pull those from our federal partners. So we should have those online fairly soon. But I know a lot of people have been asking for a service link, and so we have that available too. It's listed there. It's also on our website, so you don't have to scribble down this link. You just go to our data hub and look for the Texas NAPE Imagery 2020 data card. It'll be one of the ones that pops up at the very beginning at data.tenris.org. And once you click on that data card, you'll see those service links down in the description that Erin from our office recently put on the data card for y'all. And I think this was my last slide, but I just wanted to finish up by letting you all know that our team in Stratmap and others at Tenris, we're finishing up our very first biennium where we've had our funding reinstated officially. It's been quite a while since we have had that from the legislature and from our agency. And so we are very excited to start planning projects for data acquisition for the next biennium, so the next 2-year cycle. So now's the time if you have ideas for things that we can put this funding toward that could help all of us collectively. Hopefully that's our goal, is to provide geospatial data that can be purchased one time and used many times. So please let me know if you have anything that you are interested in that you want to take a look at, and because we're going to start planning those once we cross that fiscal year on September 1 of this year. So thanks a lot. I'll hand it over to Joey now, unless there are questions.
Don't see any questions at this time, but when they come up, I'll let you know.
Okay. Go for it, Joey.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and as Gayla said, it looks like there's another one. Gayla, do you want to talk about the land cover?
I apologize. I did have one more project to update you all on. I let you know about this at the last meeting. This is a 1 meter land cover project from NOAA that we are working with them on. We are very excited about this very high resolution land cover data that we are partnering with them on. It'll be new data development in the Houston area with 25 classes. So they'll use imagery and LiDAR and land parcels and other data sets to help train the algorithms to create this land cover data for us. It will be in the public domain. The status right now is we are dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's on the contract right now with NOAA, and we are going to be very excited to officially kick off this project in the coming weeks. NOAA will set about with the contractor for these data, and they'll be available to the public next summer. So the area that we're getting is an area around Houston that you see there on the map. That will definitely be helpful for the ecological studies around that area, as well as other things, flood issues in the area as well, to go into the models. And you'll see the classes, the 25 classes that are listed on the right-hand side that will be in this data set. So that should be all I have. Thanks, y'all.
All right, thank you, Gayla. Yeah, but as Gayla was saying earlier about the new biennium starting, yeah, we are looking for, projects for this upcoming winter season. There's still some areas in Texas that are going to start needing refresh in the near future. So, I mean, if you need LiDAR or any other elevation type data set, if it's bathymetry or anything like that, please let us know. We're definitely looking for projects. So just to give you an update on some LiDAR in the region, the 2019 USGS hurricane coverage is available. And the most recent release we did was the 2020 North Texas, and so those are both available. That's the area in orange. You can go download that from data.tenors.org now. The 2021 projects, the McLennan County for the TCEQ project, which is the dark blue there, that one should be coming out in the next month or so after we're going to wrap up final delivery and some other things. That project's on schedule, so that'll be available later this summer. And then the Travis and Bear still on schedule to be delivered this winter and spring. But yeah, as I said, there's nothing on the books right now, so we are actively looking for some LiDAR projects. So please let me know if you're interested in getting some LiDAR for your area. Another project that we've been working on is the classification for the USGS LiDAR. That one's going very well. We've had several collections and blocks go through third-party QA/QC. Everything's passing well, so that was proceeding on schedule, and we are looking to have all that data available by around the spring of next year is what it's looking like. So yeah, that's going to be a great data set for the state, and we're also looking to expand this for the other USGS collections around the state. So if there's one in particular that you might need or benefit from, please let us know so we could make it one of the priority collections that we pursue this next time we go after it. We're also in the midst of doing a bathymetry project over the Laguna Madre. The BEG captured some Topi Bathy LiDAR, and we're getting near to having all of that in-house. They're doing some final processing on it, but that looks like it should have some substantial coverage of the lagoon. And then we're going to go back and we're in the process of selecting vendors for the acoustic surveys, the additional bathymetry surveys to shore up any of the low confidence areas or the areas that we weren't able to collect Topo Bathy LiDAR for. So yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye on in the near future. You know, this is something that we're very interested in pursuing for the state, as it supports numerous applications from various agencies. So this would be our first foray into collecting the bathymetry data, but it's something we definitely want to pursue in the future. So if you have any areas that you really need data for, please let us know, as that's something that's on our radar for this next biennium and the funds we'd like to spend on Stratmap projects. And I think that's my last one, and so I'll pass it over to Lauren. Let me make sure, any questions? Oh, we do have one question, Lauren, sorry.
Yeah, I think Joey, Raj was asking about when you were discussing the reclassification, was that for the entire state?
Yeah, we'd be interested. There are numerous collections out in West Texas, in the Panhandle, in those areas that we have the USGS LiDAR for, but we haven't pursued classifying it yet. Those are some very, very large projects. So I'd like to be able to collect, you know, I think that we might be able to pursue all of those out west, or the remaining USGS coverage for the state. But it's really just going to depend on what our budget looks like and what type of contributions we get from other agencies for the other Stratmap projects we get. So definitely, if you can contribute to those projects and you want to make, you know, one a priority, then we can definitely discuss that and hopefully make it work.
One other question that Webster has is all of this LiDAR based, or are you working with the hydro survey folks at TWDB?
Relating to so yeah, like right now when the survey we're doing for the Laguna Madre, that's in partnership with our Coastal Sciences group. We are leaning on our hydro survey teams for their expertise and such. But it's more, I think this is going to be more of a you know, cooperative effort, especially for the state, and as much Bathy as we're going to have to pursue in the future. You know, there's just no way for our hydro survey team that we have at the water board to collect all that data. So and I know that Parks and Wildlife is collecting data, and NOAA collects data, and the Army Corps collects data. So it's more collaborative and cooperative with everybody, and it's just taking turns, picking up different areas wherever we can. But yeah, the projects that we're doing will be through our Stratmap vendors. We're not utilizing the hydro survey team to perform those bathymetric acquisitions because they already have full schedules. They're already going out collecting surveys constantly. So
I think that's all the questions.
all right. Well, I'll pass it over to Lauren then.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Kirk. I am the Geographic Data Coordinator for TNRIS. I manage our land parcel and address point program. So as you guys can see from our slide, they're here, we're ready to release them. The 2021 land parcel and address points data sets are ready to go. Next slide, please. So just a quick little update on what we've got. We'll start with land parcels. So we have 195 counties that have been delivered and standardized and are ready to go. You can see those in green. We have about 34 counties in blue that we have in-house that are still in the middle of their standardization process, but once those wrap up in the next couple weeks, they're going to be added to our data hub as well. And then we are still in contact with various county appraisal districts throughout the state to fill in those little holes. There are about 1 or 2 counties out there that still rely on paper maps, so we won't be relying on any GIS data coming in from them, but they are going to be in our subsequent acquisitions that we do. We are going to be working with them on converting their physical paper maps to a GIS data set. Next slide. And oops, one back. Sorry, there we go. And then for address points, we have 235 counties, again, delivered, standardized, and ready to go. We're missing about 18, 15 of which are in that North Texas region, and we're in contact with them, so we should be getting those here pretty soon, hopefully. Same thing, we're working on getting all of those holes filled in. Something unique about the address point data set is I have submitted, at this point, 218 of those counties to our contact at the Department of Transportation, and they are being reviewed and checked for their adherence to the National Address Database, or NAD, standards. So I haven't heard anything back from our contact yet as to how our address points, across the state are checking out. But whatever we do hear back from our contact, that is going to directly inform us and our acquisition project moving forward, what we're going to ask from our data suppliers, whether they're local, regional entities or state. So that's what I have for an update for you guys. A big thank you to our IS team, in particular Ryan and Logan, who are really helping me get all of our data up online. It will be up online either tomorrow or the next day. Currently the data is just zipping, and as soon as it's done, it'll be live. We'll tweet about it as soon as it's available for download. It will join the 2019 data that's already on Data Hub. As you guys know, 2020, the data sets we didn't get a full acquisition season for the 2020 data sets due to COVID. We do have a limited collection of those. They're just not at this time publicly available on the Data Hub, but if you send a contact form in asking about a specific county, I can check and see if I have that available for you guys as well. Yeah, so I mean, very excited to have this out for you guys. In the next few months before we start the cycle all over again, I'm going to be working with Tenris and some of the other GIS leads in the state to kind of review our land parcel and address point schemas. They were created back in 2017 or 2018. I think it's time that they get kind of a review and a refresh. Let's see, I'm reading my notes here. And we will begin just ramping up our coordination again for 2022, doing some more outreach that we didn't really get to do 2020 to 2021 due to the pandemic. So maybe I'll be out there traveling a little bit more, physically meeting people, we'll see. But that's all I have for you guys. Again, we'll tweet out as soon as those data sets are live on our website. Again, I expect that to be tomorrow or the next day. But let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm always available via email too. Thanks.
Lauren, real quick, Raj is asking, how long do you think it will take to convert those paper maps to GIS files?
Good question. I don't know. The counties in particular that are still using hard paper maps are pretty rural, so hopefully they won't be nearly as complex as converting a county, say as Travis or Harris County, but I can't venture to guess at this point. I won't know until I see what they're working with and what we can do in ways of, you know, getting Arc Pro or Arc Desktop in their hands as well.
Great. Thanks, Lauren.
Sure, thank you.
Appreciate that. Keep the questions coming. If you think of them, we'll continue to monitor them even through the roll call phase here that's coming up. So we want to hear what you have to say and what other thoughts you may have to some of this. So as well as if you can answer a question or you have another thought, please feel free to post it in the questions below as well. Okay, my favorite part of the, go ahead.
I was just going to say for the roll call, or if you want to talk during the roll call, just go ahead and raise your hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so this is the part that we really enjoy, is to kind of listen to what others are doing. I have a few people that are on deck here, so I'll get started with them to break the ice, and then others feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to you. But let's see, let me just look to see who I've got on the list. TxDOT, Jen Lash, are you available to maybe let us know what's going on over there at TxDOT? And Joey, if she is on, if you could unmute her. Here she
Yeah, awesome. Hey, yes, I'm here.
Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. For those that are on the call that I may not know, my name is Jen Lash, and I am the statewide GIS program manager at TxDOT. I'll give you a quick update on a few things that our group has going on and just for the agency in general. We've been doing a lot of work since this program was started last October on building a GIS training program for the agency. We are very focused on growing GIS as a core competency of this agency, as it affects so many of the data and applications that we use and rely on to meet the needs of the public and internally. And that said, we're working with a lot of users across the state. We've expanded our GIS work group. We've started working with a broader range of and types of users, and just gathering additional use cases for the workflows that they use every day to do their work, and making, you know, tools and resources available for that broad user community. So that's been really fun and interesting to develop and see that come together. And we're at a milestone right now where we're actually going to develop our roadmap for how we put the curriculum together and roll that out to the agency over the next, it's going to be about a 2-year plan starting off. A couple of other areas that we've been really focused on, we've been rolling out a very large project with our IT division to launch our enterprise portal environments, internal enterprise portals for some large applications for emergency response, you know, bridge inspections, a lot of field specific applications to just geo-enable some of those workflows that have historically been paper. So that's a big milestone for us as an agency as well, and rolling out and cleaning up our ArcGIS Online so that we can leverage these portal environments and have a more secure managed system and structured system to govern that data. Another fun project that we have going on that we're really excited about is we're working right now on a project to release a enterprise linear referencing service that will hopefully be a public service that if you need to you know, integrate into an application to return linear referencing methods from TxDOT data, that should be available for use in lightweight applications. So that could be mile points or control sections. And if you're familiar with TxDOT data, we have a few of those. So having a conversion service will be immensely helpful for at an enterprise level. And then we're always looking at our data standards. We're very interested in standing up a work group across the agency to help us be more digital across all of our business sectors. So construction, design, the GIS that connects those things. And so we're starting to talk to various members across the agency to build a work group so that we can start getting justifications together for what we're calling our civil integrated management initiatives. And then, of course, our mapping branch and those groups are always working on improving the data. They've been cracking away at road updates. So if you're someone who's reliant on looking at local streets, the next publication of our roadways will have a lot of great updates. So be on the lookout for that. And I think that's all I've got on this end.
Great, Jen. Thanks so much. It's good to finally hear your voice. I think it's been a few years since you and I have talked, and I'm glad to see all the great things happening over there at TxDOT. So thanks for being a part of this. Appreciate your update. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, I'm going to see if let's see who else. Scott Friedman, would you be available for a quick update? All right.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right.
You all there? Can you hear me?
We got you.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, Scott Friedman here with the General Land Office. I'm director of the Geospatial Technology Services team. We've got lots of different things going on. I'll just hit some of the highlights. A lot of interesting projects related to our multi-pronged mission at the Land Office. So the first thing I'll mention is we're working and partnering with Texas Colonial Waterbird Society, Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Texas Audubon, Parks and Wildlife, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and then TAMU, Corpus Christi, and Hart Research Institute to develop an updated colonial waterbird nesting sites data layer, or rookeries layer, particularly important at our agency to our coastal resources folks and our oil spill prevention and response responders to know where these species are nesting and existing. So that's getting very close to completion. We're also working on developing a process and workflow for developing a new state-owned public domain land grid layer for the state. The first phase will focus on the 13 to 14 million acres managed by the General Land Office, permanent school fund, PSF tracts in the state. And this layer will be based on Railroad Commission geometry with PSF attributes from the Land Office. And then that should take, we anticipate, a couple of years, and then with any luck, if it's a success, we will go on to phase 2 and implement that for the remaining tracks in the state, statewide. And very much appreciate the support and funding from TNRS through Stratmap on that. The next one is Beach Watch. So we have a popular interactive website showing water quality at tourist beaches along the coast, and we're supporting and assisting field staff who are reevaluating those sites using ArcGIS Collector and ArcGIS Online to evaluate and collect best locations for additional monitoring sites. So that's an enhancement to that program. We're also working on a state real property inventory, correcting polygons for a new state real property, for new state real property maps. This goes to the governor in a report. It's also published on our website. And we're using TNRS, the TNRS parcel data. So great example of real world use application for that, and Texas Parks and Wildlife, state parks, and WMAs as base map for property boundaries where applicable. The next one is TxSed 3D enhancement. So our TxSed, our Texas Sediment Resources Geodatabase and mapping application, we're enhancing that with 3D data. We're continuing to interpret and process U.S. Army Corps of Engineers core sampling locations and QA/QCing the new core samples for inclusion in the geodatabase. And then finally, I'll mention we have extremely useful and popular oil spill toolkit used by Texas folks, but also around the Gulf for oil spill prevention and response. That's online. If you look at the General Land Office website, go to the coastal issues section and look up oil spill toolkit. And so we do an annual update for the toolkit, and we're currently coordinating with the Wellsville staff to make any needed updates to that 2021 release of the toolkit to come out early fall. It's usually timed with the Clean Gulf Conference, which is generally October, November. So those are some of the highlights we're working on. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, looking forward to working with you on some of these projects in the future. So definitely appreciate that and appreciate the updates as well. Let's see here. Anybody else before I don't want to call anybody who didn't want to say anything, but clearly there was one question that got asked: is this are the slides going to be available? The answer is yes. We're actually recording this entire session here, and we'll make that available out on the website, so you can go back and rewatch or listen to any part that you need to. So absolutely. I know we don't have anybody from Parks, at least Jeremy is not on today. I believe he is off. And I wanted to find out if anybody from TCEQ wanted to do any updates. Raj, not to put you on the spot, but is there anything you want to bring up? Anything fun going on at your shop? If I can find you.
I am still muted.
No, we hear you.
Oh, well, I'm talking to myself all this time. My God.
No,
Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Raj Nadkarni with TCEQ. I'm with the Air Quality Division, but overall, I think most of us know that TCEQ is updating all of their software from ArcGIS or ArcMap to ArcPro. And I think we just did an update for that particular piece. The GIS team is working diligently to upgrade the servers and trying to consolidate all of our shareable data, which is the last big thing or the next big thing that they're working on, to get that to a framework so it's accessible to others, not just for TCEQ. So you should be able to see that within the next few months, as what Jen was talking about in a previous email. As for my group, I'm currently working on a multi-agency federal and state project in Houston, and we have 3 aircraft, 3 boats. I wanted to thank Richard for the NOAA link for the electronic navigable waterways and obstacles in the Gulf. That came out really handy. NASA didn't know that existed, just so you know. So we were working with them, and all of our particular this particular field study is in reference to a satellite that will be launched next September. That'll be a geostationary to do air quality scans across the United States. And I think we're the last group to try and get a full picture of what it's going to look like with surrogate data from aircraft, boats, our monitoring sites, ground-based, and also mobile monitors all over the place. With that, I wanted to thank everybody at TxDOT and General Land Office, and also at Parks and Wildlife for their drone information. We were able to obtain a drone. I didn't know it was that expensive until we started getting the bills. But we will have our first research drone that will be picking up different air quality samples across all of Houston and even in the Gulf. So thank you very much for everybody. How this actually fits into GIS. We can't do anything without understanding where we are with positions and understanding where the plumes go across the entire state and across Houston for this particular field study. And we use the LiDAR and the imagery to see where they are starting from. And as Joey has known for the last 2 years or so, I keep asking for more LiDAR of the ship channel and getting all those buildings. This is the reason we want to be able to see where it's going to go through and the height of everything. So we're making a lot more steps farther into getting 3D imagery into real world scenarios. Hope that helped.
Yeah, Raj, that's awesome. I definitely appreciate that, and you know, I kind of think this Bathy stuff is gonna catch on. So the stuff that we are developing, at least as a part of this pilot, and once we kind of do our lessons learned from that, I think is just going to springboard us into doing a lot more of that elevation stuff along the coast and into the rivers and so forth. So real excited about that, and appreciate you letting me put you on the spot for for giving your update.
You know, I can talk.
I understand. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
No problem.
I want to jump back just a little bit. Jen Lash, if you're still on, let's unmute Jen. She had a question here. Matt Hyland had a quick question I want to read. So Jen, what was the planned go live date for the enterprise linear reference service that you talked about?
We don't have a planned go live yet. We are doing, we're in our second sprint now of standing up the API and the way that it's interacting with the database. But the way that it's going to work is that essentially we're doing an extract from grid for just those tables that support those LRMs. So I should be speaking your language, Matt, and standing those up in an Oracle database. And then we'll have the service basically make API conversion calls. So if anyone else wants to use that service in their web mapping application, they could click a point on the map and get a readout of exactly what those translations would need to be. So if they wanted to know control section, they could get that. If they wanted to know DFO, they could get that. So I think it will be a really helpful tool for our transportation partners that are trying to speak the same language as we are as we look at these large scale projects together.
Great.
I can keep you posted. Matt, if you want to shoot me an email, or I can give you a periodic update on that too if you have a specific interest, because it is something we want to make a public service.
Great, Jen. Thanks so much for clarifying.
Yep.
I wanted to address Kelly's question that she had, which I think is very important and something that we will be talking about in the very near future. But Kelly asked, we have heard that the County Boundary Authority is going to be transferred from GLO to TxDOT. Is that correct? Or is there any additional information on this? And the answer is, I guess we have to be careful about the semantics of what that means, transferred over to TxDOT. But I think there's two things happening here. One is the potential adoption of the Texas County boundaries to the boundary that TxDOT has actually been maintaining over a few years. That kind of seems to be the go-to one, but it doesn't solve our problem when it comes to the authoritative source. So Felicia and I have been talking a lot about, best way to handle this, and maybe Tenris getting into the play here. And becoming that authoritative source for county boundaries, which is basically we would be the keepers of that data set from here on out. We could start with TxDOT as being the sole boundary, and then be working individually with the counties and the states and others that have a vested interest in making sure these boundaries are correct. We would collect and modify those as we need to. Now, this isn't something we can just go, hey, we're doing this. I mean, I guess we could, but in theory, what we want this is to be truly adopted in a particular way. So we're going to be working through the GIS solutions group to get a better handle on what this means. The water board is going through sunset right now, by which we are bringing this kind of thing up to say this is a critical data set that doesn't necessarily have a source dedicated to making sure that it's all one thing. We don't want a bunch of different fragmented versions of the county boundaries to be out there. So I think that's about the best answer I can give you. And if anybody else from Tenris wants to chime in on that or articulate that a little differently than I did, feel free to do so. But just so you know, Kelly, this is a data set that is extremely critical, and that we're going to try to find a real authoritative source for it moving forward. We just have to do it correctly. So I think that's about the best I can do there. Anybody from Tenris want to comment, or if not?
This is Felicia, and that you're exactly right. And I did answer Kelly, and just to let her know that, you know, in terms of the rumor that she heard about the GLO, that the GLO will always have the original records, but those records will always be maintained at GLO. So, and GLO does use a county boundary data set as well, and I believe they use the one that the Stratmap program used to use many years ago, that was extracted from the 1 to 24,000 topographic maps, which is exactly also what TxDOT was using, but then they went a step further and corrected all the topology errors that were in that particular data set. So yeah, and we're definitely interested. This is one of those examples of a high priority data set that we're very dedicated in going after once it's deemed by the community that it's very much in need. And I think Bruno brought up also the point that this is very important to the 911 community. They definitely need an authoritative data set of county boundaries by which to match their own jurisdictional boundaries to. So yeah, we're very much on top of that. And if there's ever any other priority data set that people can think about and would like for us to consider, we're down for that as well.
Great.
So thank you for that question.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Felicia. I want to bring up something Grant had brought up, Grant Garrison. Since your Stratmap funding has been restored by the state of Texas legislature, what does that actually mean for the program? What specific effects does that have, and what does that specifically mean for Stratmap? I'm going to do my best to answer this, but Gayla can chime in on this. You know, frankly, I think it's at the position of the state to try to fund critical state data products that are needed for the state to do its business on a day-to-day, as well as help with emergency management scenarios. And for us to have a Stratmap funded, you know, for our Stratmap program to be funded, I think it's basically the state's way of saying, let's at least get things started with data that is critical. And primarily these are statewide data sets that we're talking about: imagery, LiDAR, elevation data, now parcels and address points are falling into that. And now we're talking about, you know, public lands and county boundaries. So those are critical data sets that could help with some funding. So funding doesn't always have to come from an individual agency that's looking for it. But it doesn't mean that we have all the funding in the state that we can just do whatever we want to. A lot of this has to be cost shared. And so we can kick it off with whatever funding we have in there, as long as there's a consensus to do so. And then from that, we could take on any additional funding, whether it be a grant oriented through a federal program, or possibly other state agencies like TxDOT, who've constantly helped in funding some major important projects, and TCEQ and others who have done that as well. So what it just means is that at least we have a starting point financially to get moving on a particular thing. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Grant, completely. And Gayla, is there any other thing you might want to chime in on relating to that?
No, that's about it. I mean, I think of it as we can be the seed now for attracting other partners for either a pilot data set, which is what we're doing with these Bathymetry and land cover projects this year. In order to expand those into coming years, we can attract partners to help cost share those projects to make a better impact with the dollars. Before, when we didn't have this funding stream, we were, we had to start from nothing and rely on our other partners. So this helps us in a coordinated fashion, as well as what Richard said about these layers being critical for everyone in the state. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, Grant. If we didn't quite get you your answer, just let us know. We'll be happy to talk afterwards. Okay. Anybody else? I'm gonna let y'all raise your hands if anybody else wants to throw something out there. I know we have some vendors on the call. If any of the vendors, this is your opportunity to chat a little bit about a cool project or something that y'all are working on. Feel free to do so before we move on. Anybody else? Thomas Montgomery has the floor. Can somebody unmute? I can unmute him, I think. All right, Thomas, it's all yours.
Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thanks for calling on me, and thank you to Tenris for providing all the amazing services that y'all do. Just wanted to give y'all a quick update for the city of Austin. I work at the IT department there in the GIS division. A couple interesting things going on that I wanted to share. One is if any of the organizations on the call use Microsoft Teams, there's a pretty new product that Esri and Microsoft developed together. It's a ArcGIS add-in for Microsoft Teams that basically integrates ArcGIS Online with Teams, and you can drop maps into Teams and do some basic map editing, like without even opening your browser. So that's kind of interesting. We've been implementing that over here. Another thing is we have our 2021 imagery all processed and integrated into our applications. That's basically the city limits is the extent of that. And what else? We've also started backing up ArcGIS Online. We got a vendor called North Point GIS that has a ArcGIS Online backup product that we've been slowly starting to use. As you may know, ArcGIS Online doesn't have a data backup feature, or basically none of your stuff in ArcGIS Online is backed up. So we've started implementing that since we have so much stuff in there. So yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Hopefully I'm not usurping any of my management that's also on the call. So thank you.
I appreciate that. No, that's actually quite interesting. I had no clue there was a Teams plugin for ArcGIS Online. That's something that we definitely need to try it out. But yeah, that's great. That's great news. I didn't even know about that. So appreciate you bringing that up, and appreciate the rest of the updates. So thank you. Any others want to raise their hand, and any cool things y'all are working on we should be aware of? All right, Greg, I'm going to unmute you, sir. I think we did this last time with you, Greg. Try to unmute yourself if you can. There you go. Got you.
I think that worked.
All right.
So
how's it going, man?
Just a very quick update for me. Not too much here, but just wanted to mention that we are still ongoing with the Texas Disaster Information System. We're working with GLO and some of the vendors to ensure that as we collect the data that goes into the system, that we collect the right metadata. And so that's one of the things that we've been working on recently, is establishing those primary elements that we need from the vendors on these various data sets. We certainly don't want to get into the whole thing of requiring the FGDC level kind of metadata, but we have what we call primary elements that are must-haves, sources and the dates and primary steps in the creation of process steps, things like that. And so we're still hammering that out, and but we've got a fairly good draft that's out there right now, and it's not only applies to individual data sets at the data level or data hierarchy, but it also includes those collections. because a lot of the vendors will be sending us huge files full of multiple layers and even different formats, GIS and what so forth. And so we're trying to figure out ways to tag that, establish metadata for those collections. And then we're still going to be moving into the data taxonomy and working on the data categories. That's been on the back shelf for a little bit, but we're about to get into that again. And the priority there will be just for anybody that accesses this Texas Disaster Information System in the future. They'll have some good, dependable search tools for finding the data. And then I guess one other thing that we're looking at is back to the metadata. Brent has created a real quick and dirty app that allows people to type in some of these primary metadata elements and then hit a button, and it produces this YAML code that people can save and then use it to submit with. So that's something we're looking at. And then the only other thing is the COVID viewer. We're still updating that, and probably we'll continue at least through September unless the numbers really start to go back up again. But at least it'll be probably another month or two before we end that viewer. And that's it for me.
Greg, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And this whole Texas Disaster Information System, I think, is going to be something we're going to want to showcase at some point, whether it be in this meeting, but I'm thinking more likely at the forum in March, where we actually talk a lot more about what that's doing, because that is a huge undertaking that's going to be unifying a lot of data sets across multiple platforms. And to watch that come together and what's being done there is going to be nothing short of amazing. So a lot more to come on that we want to definitely keep this community involved in. But to me, it's kind of a game changer as it relates to how many people are coordinating on TDIS. And it reminds me of what's going to be happening with FDST as well, because I think they all are going to play into that community of data at some point. So more to come, but appreciate you bringing that up and the update as well. So and we got John Darty. I'm gonna and I saw that you supplied a link. So John, I'm gonna unmute you. Give me 1 second. All right, it's all yours, John.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Just wanted to let everybody know we have the user conference, and there is a if you weren't able to attend or if it was too much, we're having a webinar on August 18th. It's a 45-minute webinar at 10 a.m. Central called the Key Takeaways from the UC for State and Local Government. And so I can send out that link to register for that webinar, but that's going to be a really good recap of the annual user conference.
That's excellent, excellent. And yeah, if you could send that out as well along with your other one, that would be fantastic.
Will do.
Thank you, John. Any others? Okay, I think we are good. I think we can probably go ahead and move on. So yeah, again, feel free that if something else comes up, or with the Tenris folks, did I miss any other questions that we need to answer? If not, we can move on. Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and move on to our feature presentation this afternoon, and this is with Christine Blickenstaff of USGS. And one thing I really wanted to bring up on this is probably one of the more exciting projects I've worked on in my career, is developing with Christine a kind of a Texas oriented and a flood oriented viewer that they have been creating actually for several years. And I've been listening to Christine talk in the past about Inform and what they were all up to, which she'll give a little background on. But when it came time to decide what we were going to do in the flood space, it didn't make any sense for the board to try to develop something something on its own, and that we really need to leverage something that's already been put out there and proven. And this flood decision support toolbox that Christine manages, when I took a look at that, I realized what an amazing start of what they've been creating, and the collaboration with all the federal folks and others out there, and that instead of building something on our own, let's leverage that's already been done. And so Christine and I met multiple times prior to making the decision to move forward, and it's been the best decision I think we've made. So I've asked Christine if she could come in and just kind of demonstrate what's been done so far, to give you guys a little taste of what's happening. And our plan is to continue to work for the foreseeable future to continue to build into this product. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Christine to take it away and show us the demonstration of FDST.
Thank you so much, Richard. Just checking to make sure that you can see my screen, if someone can confirm that.
Yeah, we can see it.
Awesome, thank you. So Richard did an excellent job of explaining how we got together, the Inform team and Texas Water Development Board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and give you guys a little bit of background on what Inform is, and then I'm going to dive right into the flood decision support toolbox. So I'm going to start from scratch, essentially, if because I know you guys are all going to want to go and Google this as soon as we get off of this call. So if you go to any search engine and you just type Inform, that's INFRM, as I just did, the first thing that comes up is this Interagency Flood Risk Management, and that is us. So I'm going to talk you guys through who we are just by showing you through our website, and that will give you a taste of how to navigate it when you go there yourself. So, like I said, we are Interagency Flood Risk Management. And how we like to think about the work we do is we are trying to collaborate nationally, but empower locally. So all of our projects that we work on, we really try to keep that in mind and have that be our focus. So when you guys go to this website, you can read a little bit more about who we are. But the partner agencies in this consist of FEMA, the Weather Service, USGS, and the Corps of Engineers. So I am, as Richard mentioned, from the USGS. We do the web presence, most of the web all of the web applications, a lot of the modeling that come out of the Inform team. FEMA is the funding partner, and then the Weather Service does a lot of reviewing, oversight, and obviously their forecasts are fed into almost everything we do. And then the Corps predominantly does the modeling components within the Inform projects. So some of you might also have heard of this group called IRIS. That stands for Integrated Water Resources, Science, and Services. This has been around for a long time, since 2011. And it's the same 4 agencies, but it's on the federal level. And they put together this set of guidelines of if you're working in new development of flood science, you have to work within these parameters to make sure we're all meeting a minimum standard of quality. So they created this great system and built this structure, but there was no projects being done within it. So we came together in Region 6, the 4 federal agencies I just mentioned, and we said, hey, we're going to actually do like a grassroots effort where we're going to do something locally, but we're going to fit it into those IRIS standards to make sure we're meeting those science standards. Okay, so that's background on who we are and why we're working together, getting more science dollars to go to science rather than 2 different agencies working on a solution to the same problem. So we're all working on solutions together. We have 4 main projects right now. One of them is the Estimated Base Flood Elevation Viewer. And this, I'm not going to demo this at all today, but if you have time, launch it from this tile right here. Go in and play with it. It's really, really cool. It's how FEMA relays their base level engineering models to the public because previously they weren't able to share models. This allows them to do so just through downloading the model. Anybody can do it, and it's a super cool application. But that was a shameless plug. I'm not talking about that today. What I'm talking about today is the Flood Decision Support Toolbox. So I'm going to skip over it just for now and introduce the other 2 projects to you. We also do these watershed hydrology assessments throughout the state of Texas, and these are related to flood flow frequency analysis and different methodologies to come up with those. So once again, if you have time, please do go in and look at this project. It's really cool, but not why we're here today. And then finally, bringing NOAA Atlas 14 to Texas is one of the INFORM initiatives. So I know everyone here probably already knows what NOAA Atlas 14 is, so you can launch it straight from here. Another really interesting thing to go look at a later date and time. Then we have additional resources at the bottom of the web page. Now, these additional resources might just be something that's related to flood that each of the agencies are doing. They might be data that feeds into one of these projects, but you can launch any of them just straight from here. And then you can get in contact with us. So if you click on this, that email actually comes to me as well as a few other folks, and we will respond to you usually within 24 hours. And if you want to become involved with any of these projects or have questions, this is the best way to reach the INFORM team. And once again, that does come directly to me, so I will see it if you email us. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on what we're here to talk about today, the Flood Decision Support Toolbox. So when INFORM got together, the 4 federal agencies, and said, hey, we're going to work on science solutions as a conglomerate, one of the first things we started thinking about was in Region 6 as a whole, we did not have flood inundation mapping libraries available. So, we got together in 2014 as an organization. And then in 2015, all these big floods started hitting Texas. And each of our agencies were getting calls with communities that were frantic and just looking to get flood inundation maps for what was expected to happen. So they had a forecast, but they're like, well, what does that mean? What's going to be inundated? Well, at that point in time, we were trying to help. And we're like, all right, well, who has a model in this area? Do we have one? USGS, does the Corps, does FEMA? Trying to find out what models were available. Then, if the model was available, how old is this model? Is this model complete crap? Trying to figure out, is this model usable to create a flood inundation map? And then trying to do that on the fly and not being able to double check your work. And people are making really important emergency management decisions from these maps. So, it's kind of like trying to put together a puzzle in a tiger cage, while there's a tiger in there with you, right? It's not the best way to do things. So we said we need, for the entire state of Texas, flood inundation mapping libraries at half-foot intervals. We need to tie them to a gauge. We need to tie them to a forecast point. And how are we going to do that? Well, if we had to build the models for all of those, it would take years and millions of dollars. And who has the time and money to do that? No one. So we set out looking for existing models. And we categorize those existing models in 3 different bins. One of those bins is a typical engineering scale model. That is the highest quality model, the lowest uncertainty. Then you also have the base level engineering model. So that's started by FEMA and now also supported by Texas Water Development Board. But it is almost an engineering scale model, but it does not have those inline structures, but still really quality model. And then you have other types of modeling similar to the hand method or height above nearest drainage area or bathtub type modeling that has higher uncertainty, but if it's the only information you have available, it's still really good information. So we collected all those models, and most of them were base level engineering models, and we used those to create flood inundation mapping libraries at half-foot intervals and tie them to a gauge and a forecast point. So that's this in a nutshell. You can go in and read more. We talk about how we get the data out. You can read all of this information. You can actually download a user's guide right here on the right. You can see my pointer. And you can download submission guidance. So why do we need submission guidance if we're creating the flood inundation mapping libraries, you might be wondering? Well, we realized that, yeah, the 4 federal agencies can work on these things, but we have state agencies, local governments, consultants, all of these folks doing this really great work and creating new models every day and doing new studies every day. If we could just show them how to create these flood inundation mapping libraries, maybe they could do that and then pass it to us and we could push it out. So that is why we have this submittal guidance. And right now, Texas Water Development Board is putting that into all of their base level engineering new projects, that this has to be one of the products, the flood inundation mapping library, so that we can fill the whole state of Texas and really have good flood information. Okay, so I'm just going to launch it from here. You can see how simple it is. You click on the tile, it launches, and right now there's a whole bunch of really fun language that I'm sure you'll all read word for word about uncertainties and how not all models are, well, no models are perfect, but some models are useful. And then here we have Region 6, FEMA Region 6, or you can go to Texas. So FEMA Region 6, this is what we were working on before we partnered with Texas Water Development Board. Now, if you go to the Texas one, this is our new partnership and all of the exciting new stuff that we're working on. So what I'm going to show you is what's available to the public right now. And then how lucky you guys are, I'm also going to show you what's coming out in phase 2 in August. You guys are going to be the first group that has seen these new products and the new features. But right now, I'll show you what's available to you already. So you can see that this is what we've partnered on, Inform Team and the Texas Water Development Board. And I'm going to show you the base features so that you can get a feel for what this tool really does. So it'll guide you through every step of the way. It's really simple to use, but you can go in and each one of these are a gauge. So if you hover over it, there's a lot of information you can find out initially. You can find out the river stage, when that last reading was taken, the name of the gauge. And you can also see from the colors if it's in flood stage, not. If there's an arrow pointing up, that means that it's the river flow is increasing. If it's level, like this orange one I'm hovering over right now, it means that it is staying level. And then if the arrow is pointing down, the river stage is decreasing. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Now this one is a little bit unique because, and it's obviously why I chose it, but it is currently in minor flood stage. So if that's the case, this pops up and it tells you the current condition, the flood stage, minor flooding, makes you aware this is what's going on at this location at this time. So I'm going to hit OK. It also pulls the associated flood inundation map for that stage. So if you open a gauge where something is going on, it immediately shows you what is going on there. Now, if I were concerned that this is increasing or decreasing, or I wanted to see what was going on, I can go over here and I can click the hydrograph. It pulls open the hydrograph, and there's a few lines here that might be kind of confusing. So what we have is we have the gauge number. This is the USGS gauge number, the name of the gauge. Then we have the different flood stages outlined so that you can see where this exactly falls. So major flooding here, moderate flooding, minor flooding, and then action stage down here. So we are in moderate flooding. Now the dark blue line that I'm hovering over and scrolling over, this is pulled straight from the USGS gauge, so it's observed, and you'll see the dates down here. So this is observed stage for those dates. Then the dotted line is the forecast. This is pulled straight from the National Weather Service forecast, so the West Gulf Coast RFC's forecast, and we're on the descending limb, so there's really nothing to worry about here. But if it was still going up, you know, then you could go ahead and say, let's pretend it was going to go up to 24 feet, right? This major flood stage. Well, I want to know what that's going to look like. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this drop down. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go to 24 feet. So if that flood did occur that was forecasted to 24 feet, this is what that inundation would look like. Now, say I'm real curious and I just want to see, well, let's go to maximum expected flood. And just to give you guys a definition, maximum expected flood is either the highest observed flood or the 500-year, whichever is larger. So I can go here and I can see what's going on with that major flood, the maximum expected flood. I can zoom in and let's pretend, since this is a rural area, that, you know, this is where I keep my cattle. And I can click on it and go, all right, it's going to be 10.2 feet in this location. I need to go ahead and evacuate my cattle. Or, you know, if you're in a rural area, obviously different solutions, but since, or not in a rural area, excuse me. So you can click anywhere within the flood inundation library, and it will show you what the expected depth is going to be at that location. So this is already really cool information, really important information if you're in peacetime planning. We want to call it peacetime because there's not an event going on, but you want to create an evacuation plan. This is a really helpful tool where you can say, all right, if this big flood does come, this is what it's going to look like for me. Another cool feature here is you can look at historical peaks. I'm going to actually go to a different site so that you guys can see. This one didn't have historical peaks. So let's go somewhere near my hood. So I'm going to go look at, so this is up in North Texas near Dallas-Fort Worth. And I'm going to look at the historical peaks at this site. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. I keep selecting ones that don't have historical peaks. Let's do it one more time. Okay, so for this site, I'm going to put, okay, I'm not sure exactly what's happening. Normally, the historical peaks come up for the site, and it is in order of magnitude, not chronological order. And you can see what the flood inundation would look like for that site if it were to happen in today's landscape. So I apologize, but play with it later and we'll hopefully get that up and running perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this gauge right here, and we're going to talk about, so if you're looking at some flooding in this area and you are concerned about what might happen later, you can go to the layers and you can pull up weather conditions. So you can turn on the radar, you can look at, what might be coming in the near future. So coming rainfall, recent rainfall, cloud cover, you can turn on all these different weather scenarios that might help you make decisions. You can also turn on different USGS gauges from here, and you can turn on hydrology. So if you wanted to turn on the rivers so that you could see, where the rivers are, or watersheds so that you could, figure out which watershed you're in, where your watersheds separate. So these are all just layers that can be helpful when you're trying to make decisions. You can obviously change your base map. But then going back to the flooding, when you're zoomed in here, something that you might be interested in is some of that metadata. So we've taken a subset of metadata that is important, the really important key features when you're looking at flood inundation maps and modeling. So things like the datum, things like, what the different stages are, who created the library, when it was created, what type of LiDAR data was used, when that DEM was published. So these are all really important things that can help you understand the uncertainty associated with any flood inundation mapping library. It tells you the kind of model. So, as I was explaining, that engineering scale model versus base level engineering model versus that tier C, which is more bathtub type modeling or hand modeling. This tells you which type of model you're looking at. Then this number right here tells you a little bit about uncertainty. So this is comparing the modeled data to the actual gauge data, and it tells you the amount of uncertainty that you can see at that location. So at this location, the uncertainty is 1.1 feet, which can seem large, but we want to make sure that people understand this is an estimation, and this is where it might fall within a foot of what we're saying. Okay, and then once again, you can contact us straight from here. You can download the entire library if you wanted to download it and use it, download it in shapefiles and use it in your own web application, your own, however you want to view it. You can download the whole library there. You can also go straight to the USGS gauge or the weather service forecast point from here for this location. All right. Another really cool feature is this print map feature. What I really like about this is you can, once you set this, you can zoom in or zoom out to the level you want to look at. It gives you some really, really good information about this location. It tells you what river stage you're looking at. Then it gives you this metadata down here that helps people understand what this information means. But my favorite feature about this is this URL. It is a set URL, so you can just copy and paste it into any email, send it to your grandma or your constituents, whoever is interested in this information, and they can click on it and pull this exact report up. And while I'm talking about that, I'll show you, once I move to the new features, another way to share this information. But then I wanted to make sure and talk about this buildings data set. So this buildings data set, I'm actually going to go to a more populous area because it's always fun to see actual flooding happening where there's buildings rather than just a bunch of land. Let's see, what do you guys want to look at? Let's go to Waco. That's something sort of happening there. Okay, so I'm going to try to do some planning and say, all right, what if that big flood hits in Waco, you know, right by that stadium where we're going through, and I want to turn on our buildings data set. So what this buildings data set is, so there's a big disclaimer about what you can do with this information, what the limitations of the information are, so that just pops up. And then once you turn the buildings data set on, it is a data set that Texas Water Development Board put together that shows all of the buildings in the area, and they've created these damage curves so that if this building is inundated, they can give a really close estimate of how much that might cost. So, for example, with this big flood of 37 feet here, we have almost 2,000 buildings inundated. And if you look at this cost estimate, I mean, we're looking at, you know, $1.2 billion of damage happening here. But I think it's really cool to dig in a little bit further. So not only can you go in and so say this is my office building and I click on it, the estimated water depth here is 1 foot. Now, if you go to the stadium, you might wonder why this is hatched. And these hatched buildings are buildings like stadiums where we did not include them in the cost estimate for damages, just because even though, yes, it is going to likely get up to 16.1 feet in that stadium, it doesn't have the same repercussions as, say, an office building because it was designed to get wet. So buildings like this are not included in the computation. So this alone is just really, really awesome information. This was a collaborative effort between Inform, Texas Water Development Board to create this buildings data set, to create these damage curves so that we can get really quick estimates like this so people can understand, okay, if this is my house, you know, I'm going to be 2.4 feet underwater. And one thing I didn't mention yet, but as you turn on and off layers and information, you'll see that the legend changes because we don't want the legend up there all the time if you're not looking at that data set because it can get really confusing. So for the buildings data set, you can see the legend here, what each of the colors means, but if you turn it off, it isn't part of the legend, and so it's not as overwhelming to look at this giant legend. Okay, so I am actually going to jump to our phase 2 release. So this is coming out in August. I'm super, super excited about it. I'm going to jump right back to where we were in Waco, and I'm going to show you guys these additional features. So since we were just looking at the buildings data set, I'm going to show you what is new for phase 2, which I get really, really excited about. So bear with me. So once you turn on the buildings data set, once again, you get the disclaimer and you get the same awesome data as far as how many buildings are inundated, what it's likely to cost. But the new feature, and I think this is so, so helpful, is this report feature. So once you click on the report feature, it comes up with what the gauge is, the simulated stage that we're looking at, how many buildings are inundated, and what that estimated damages is. Okay, so I'm looking at a summary chart right now. So the different building types are down here on the x-axis. The number of buildings are over here on the y. And you can see here that you're looking at the number of buildings total that are over 5 feet of inundation. And so you can look at it stacked. You can look at it individual bars, if that's easier way for you to understand the data. If you only care about residential buildings, let's say, you can look at just residential buildings. You can stack your residential buildings. So it's just a lot of really cool ways to look at this data of what's going on with inundation for all of these buildings. So I'm going to look at all building types again. And even though number of buildings is important, I think even more interesting to all of us is estimated damages. So you can switch to estimated damages over here, and you can look at what that might be for this reach. My other favorite thing, so you can look at the summary table. It breaks everything down on, you know, what type of building that we're talking about, the number of dollars for each type of building, and it totals it for you. So it's just more in-depth information. And then you can also look at what types of buildings are affected like this. So there's a lot of different ways to view this data. If I only want to look at commercial buildings, and this, I can see how many feet and damages all here for commercial buildings. Now, if you go ahead and print this, it gives you a lot of the same information that the previous report did. So you see the flood inundation amount, you see what stage you're at, so we're at 37 feet, but you can see the buildings that are inundated. And so if I'm super interested in just this area at the university, I can zoom in real close. It gives you the summary data graphics in the report, and then also the more detailed breakout table, and then it gives you that metadata again. So it's a 3-page report that gives you not only the flood extents, the flood depths, it also gives you the inundated buildings and the details about that and different ways to view it. Once again, you can print that, you can copy and paste this URL, send it to anyone you like, and they'll be looking at exactly what you are looking at. So that is a new feature for phase 3. And I think it's amazing. Now I'm going to show you some other features for phase 3. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm going to return to the home view. It's as simple as that. To return to the home view, I am going to go to layers, and I'll show you some new really cool things with these layers. Okay, so, oh wait, hold on, sorry. I was in the live version. I need to go back to the beta version. Okay, so go to the home view and go to layers and observation stations. So we have added the reservoirs in on this. So if you go ahead and you turn on reservoirs, you'll see the reservoirs pop up here, and they're color coded. And once again, you can go to the legend, and now the reservoir information is here on the legend where it wasn't before. So you can see percent full. So these ones over here in East Texas are looking 100% full. But if you go down here, further into West Texas, you know, this is looking at 60% full. But something that I think is really unique here is not only are we looking at reservoirs and percent full, we can look at it a bunch of different ways. So you can look at percent full via these scaled circles, and once again, go to the legend to help you understand what they mean. You can look at the reservoirs by percent of flood height. So it's a just different way to find out information. And then you can also do the scaled circles for that one as well, and go to the legend to help you understand what they mean. Now, once you click on one of the well, I guess I should go back. You can hover over the reservoir, and it gives you a summary of what's going on at that reservoir. So it not only tells you what reservoir it is, but it tells you the water level above datum, the water level into flood pool, and the flood pool height. So it's really good information. But you can also click on that. And then once you click on it, it gives you even more information, details about flood pool, conservation pool, and dead pool. You can look at historical, so like this is 1953 to 2013. You can look at statistics. So there's a bunch of really good information that you can pull here. You can look at the historical data in a tabular format, and then it also gives you the location of this reservoir. So it gives you just tons of information about the reservoir, which can help you make management decisions or understand, all right, if this flooding does really happen here, do we have any capacity to store some of it? You know, what's the risk associated here? So it's just another tool to help us understand the impacts a flood might have. And then all the other things I showed you before are still here in the observation stations, including stream gauges, rain gauges, and atmospheric gauges. The second cool thing that we have added for phase 2 is road conditions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on road conditions. And it looks really, really busy when you're looking at all of the road conditions. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. And when you start zooming in, you'll start seeing different types of road conditions pop up. So once again, go to the legend. And now that we have road conditions on, everything that helps you understand what each of these means is listed here. So road construction is these lines of orange. If we had a flooded road, we don't have any in Texas right now, so I can't demo that for you. But if we had a flooded road, let's pretend that you have flooding in this area. You're looking at this flood inundation mapping library here, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, you go create the flood inundation mapping library. You look, okay, there's no flooded roads within this area. I can evacuate however I choose to, right? So it's just another tool to help us understand what is going on with flood inundation mapping. Okay, a couple more things I want to show you guys before we open it up to questions. So when we're looking at the road construction, or excuse me, road conditions, you can look at accidents, closures, construction, road damage, or flooded roads. You can turn them all on or off. You know, if you open it up and you're looking at road construction, you're trying to plan your evacuation route, you can hover over it and find out when it's expected to end. So this particular road construction is supposed to end July 31st at 4 p.m. You can click on it, and it'll give you as much information as we have available to us. Now, same thing with accidents. Oh, luckily there's not any accident. Oh, there's one over here. So once again, when it's expected to end, so how long it's going to take to clear, what the repercussions are, and then you can click on it and it'll give you all the information that we have available to us. So the road conditions is an added feature for this phase 3. The reservoirs are an added feature for phase 3, and the buildings report that I showed you guys is an added feature for phase 3. Now I feel like I could sit here and just show you feature after feature and keep talking about this, but I would rather have you guys ask any questions that you might have. I'm just going to show you one last thing. As I mentioned, sharing information is super important when you're trying to make flood plans or create evacuation strategies, or just work together with maybe your family and show them, you know, what they should be concerned with, or how a flood might impact them. So I'm going to go ahead and change some of these things. So say I'm interested in showing my family what might happen if we get a big flood in this area, Nolan River at Blum, Texas. And I wanted to turn on some different layers to help them understand it. So I have reservoirs on. I'm going to turn on some weather layers. I'm going to turn on some radar and some rainfall forecasts. Now, probably I selected somewhere where none of these things are happening, very interestingly. But so I created this. All of the layers are on that I want on. I want them to, or I want to go back to it every time, or I want somebody else to go back to it every time. You can click on this right here, and it creates this link that you can copy, paste, send to yourself, keep in a list, so that every time you go to open this, if you open it with this link, it's the same location, the same layers are on. It's basically just building your map, so you don't have to go in and build it the way you want to look at it every time. So, you know, if you want to do it for your office or your house, it just creates the same exact view every single time. So you can share the view, you can keep it for yourself. Okay. Richard, is there anything else that you wanted me to go over before we open it up for questions?
I think you've done an amazing job, just, you know, talking about this and stuff. Even though I've seen this and I've been a part of the whole process, every time you demonstrate it and I see it, it thrills me. I mean, it's like I'm seeing it for the first time. All I want to say is this has probably been one of the most rewarding projects that I've ever been associated with, and just the amazing programming skills of Joe, Florence, Jonathan, all the folks on your team have done an amazing job. And special thanks again to Miguel Pavon for the building information and all the damage curve assignments and so forth. And then, you know, TxDOT for allowing us to tap into their data, which I think is the useful part about all of this stuff, is you can create an amazing tool if everybody collaborates and allows you to share the information and drop it in here. And we're going to be doing some amazing things going into the next phase of work to a point where, you know, you can ad hoc, you can drop layers on in an ad hoc form, so they don't have to be necessarily in this layer structure you have on the right hand side. But if there's a layer within, let's say, the Tenris data hub, and you could copy that layer string and drop it in here, it becomes a layer now within FDST. You know, there's just so much more. The potential is absolutely amazing on this. So it's just fun to watch. I don't have anything else for you to do. I just think, you know, let it soak in for a little bit, and know that come the end of August, this dev site that you've been working on will become the site, and people can play with all the cool things that you just showed us. And then we'll be working on the next phases. So does anybody have any questions? If you do, please raise your hand. I know there's some on the side here. I'll try to look them up here shortly, but
Okay.
Any questions for Christine?
And real quick, Richard, I was able to find a location where, you know, the two of the data sets kind of intersect, and you can see how it could be useful. So if you were at this location, which is a very populous location in Austin, and you were going to be affected by this flooding, say that you were in one of these buildings that was going to be 1.3 feet, you realize, okay, I need to move my car out of the way because that it's going to hit that in, you know, 12 hours, whatever the forecast is telling you. You're going to know, okay, I shouldn't take this road. It's under construction. It's really going to help inform how to keep you safe, your property safe, or even, you know, if you're over here in one of these homes and you're going to be up to, you know, 10.9 feet, you can realize, all right, that's my entire first floor. I need to, you know, get important things out of this floor and get myself out of this area to be safe. So the data is intersecting and really can help inform.
Absolutely. And all this is real-time data that's happening, you know, so every time you pull this up, it's always going to show the great, you know, latest information as it comes to, you know, to the data that is live, and for the most part. And Christine, can you talk a little bit about how you continue to populate these models into the system? Like, what is the priority and how does that work?
Sure, absolutely, I can. So right now we have, anytime a base level engineering model is completed, and that is given to us to push out on the estimated BFE viewer, we, being USGS, create a flood inundation mapping library to put out on the FDST as well. So that was initially how we were populating these. But as I mentioned, since Texas Water Development Board has invested so wholeheartedly into base level engineering and helping get that through the whole state, they've made that part of creating a BLE model, is doing one of these libraries. And so that the consultant that is tasked with putting together the model also puts together the library. They then send it to us in USGS, and we push it out on the FDST. Also, if you have an engineering skill model, we have a tri-county study going on in the Wharton County area, and Schreibe Consultants is actually putting together flood inundation mapping libraries for that area. Now, if you are in an area maybe that has an LCRA gauge or a IBWC gauge instead of a USGS gauge, that's not a problem. As long as they meet a certain criteria, we can pull in that gauging network from those different organizations, and as long as they provide that information and make it available on the web, we can pull that in and you pull it right into the FDST. So we've made sure that we can get different data sources, that we're not the only ones creating these libraries. And so the priority, as Richard, you asked me to talk about, is just whichever base level engineering model is available first. We will then create the libraries for that. So it's not like we're trying to target certain areas. Now, BLE obviously has been targeting more populous areas, so that's where we have, I'll go to the home view. You'll notice that most of the libraries that we have are in the populated areas, and that's because there's more gauges there, there's the models there. We do have quite a few over here in near the El Paso area, but we're actually working with through IBWC with Mexico to get those out on the FDST. We need their approval before we can show something that might impact Mexico. So we do have some over here as well. But, you know, in a perfect world, and hopefully by 2025, when we have BLE throughout the entire state, we'll have coverage throughout this entire area.
Yeah, I think there was a question that came up about building information and were we creating a statewide building 3D building database, and the answer is yes, we are, but we're prioritizing it based on FDST as these areas get implemented with inundation. We're making sure that the building models are also available within that. You know, last thing we want to do is is not do it in unison with what's being developed by USGS and the models that are going in. So the building will go along with that. So the answer is yes, but we are taking our priorities from what's happening within this tool. And but eventually the hope is we'll eventually have a statewide 3D building data set that we will maintain and refresh over time. So yeah, I'm looking to see if there's any other questions here. It looks like there's quite a few. Hang on one second. Getting a lot of praise, Christine, of what a great tool this is. So
awesome.
Very awesome. There's one here from Amy. Are industrial and manufacturing assets in the AOI identified in this tool?
So say that again, industrial and manufacturing?
Manufacturing assets in the AOI are identified in this tool. I think the assets, are the assets actually brought into this? I'm not sure that.
No, we have industrial buildings.
Yeah.
So it depends on what type of asset you're talking about. Amy, could you give us a little bit of more information on that question? Because I'm not really sure how to answer it.
And Amy, if you want to raise your hand, we're happy to let you speak if you wish. And in the meantime, we can see what else we have here.
Well, and another thing to note, Richard, that I think people will find interesting is this collaboration between Inform and Texas Water Development Board. We're already moving into phase 3 coming up shortly, and that next phase, like Richard mentioned, is going to be you're going to be able to add your own data to this tool. And so, if you're interested in assets, whatever you're defining that as. Or you say you just want to look at all the hospitals, or maybe you want to look at, you have a lat-long data set of where you place your emergency response equipment. You can overlay that on the FDST starting in phase 3. And we're not going to stop there. I mean, as we think of new things that will be helpful for people to understand their flood risk, to help make decisions, we'll keep adding new features. And this is not a static tool. We're going to keep growing the amount of data in here and the type of features that are able to operate in here.
Yeah, and eventually the hope is that this will be catalog driven. There'd probably be a way, and this is going to kind of dovetail along with what TDIS is doing as well, is that there's a statewide data catalog that's kind of keeping track of everything. You can literally search the catalog and display it within FDST. And that kind of thing. One thing we've always talked about is viewers are great until you can't do something with them, and then they're not so great. The bottom line in this is that this has a very, very distinct use for it, but everybody likes to see slightly different information done slightly differently. And so the ability to allow people to customize their own data and look at it within this tool is really what's going to be driving, the use of this viewer. So we couldn't be more thrilled about what it is, and it's just such a beautiful viewer as well. It's so well done. The animations are great. The color and the layout and this overall design is just so well done. Again, kudos to your developers for everything they've done. So so stay tuned, you guys, and keep us posted. There is one question here I want to answer, and then we probably need to jump off. But it says, what does the county need to do to get the needed data into the Inform viewer? So is there any way counties can reach out to you and say, look, I have this information and love to get it into this? Do you have a kind of a play to do that, a way to do that?
Absolutely. So not only can you reach out to me right here with this email, but also if you go to the FDST, there's some information here on kind of next steps of what you would need. And what you need is is there a model in your area? Is there a gauge in your area? Is your gauge a forecast point? Now we can create libraries for gauges that aren't forecast points, and we have done that for many, but it's not as informative. And there is a process of how to get your gauge included as a forecast point, and you work through the Weather Service to do that. Now I have all of that information documented and also in the back of my mind. So reach out to me and say, hey, this is where I live. This is my community, you know, whatever. If you're a local government and you want to get your information out on the FDST and you have a model and maybe we don't know about it, reach out to me. I can work with your team to have you guys develop the libraries so that you have ownership of it and we just put it out on the viewer for you. And if you have a unique data set, we can do what we did with Texas Water Development Board, where we partner up on a smaller scale, like a county or a city. If you have like a really great data set that you want to view on here and you want to have your own view of the flood decision support toolbox, we can partner with you to get your data flowing in and out of the FDST how you want it. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. You know, whether you want to do some of the work, you want us to do the work, you want to do a combination of both, we're happy to work with local governments, counties, cities, river authorities. We're just thrilled about this partnership that Texas Water Development Board has enabled us to start exploring.
Absolutely. And before we jump off, which we'll do shortly, Courtney, you had asked that, you know, are there attributes for culvert sizes and similar drainage structures? I think the answer to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, the answer is not now, but that's the kind of data you could add to this. That you could put into that for future. You know, if you have your own information, if it's infrastructure and it's in an area and you're doing some planning, that would be the exact perfect data set to be adding into this, and then compare it to the flood analytics. And if you had a model that actually used that infrastructure to mitigate any particular flooding, that's where this tool would come in very, very handily for you. So, you know, there's just a lot that this thing could, the potential to this is just limitless in my opinion. So
yeah, Richard, that was a perfect answer. One thing we've talked a lot about is bridge deck height, putting that in there so that people can understand when the bridge deck is inundated. We just don't, we want to work with TxDOT and make sure that we're not superseding their information. So some of it's a little, that information could definitely be put in here.
Right. Christine, thanks so much. This was an amazing presentation. I've seen this, and every time you demonstrate it, I get so tickled by it, and really thrilled about what we've been able to develop together on this. And so congratulations, and I just think it's fantastic to you and your team. So people, keep the questions coming. You saw the link that Christine had to contact her. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them toward her if you want to, or send them to me directly, and I'll do the best I can to answer them, and we can just go from there. But appreciate that. A lot of really, really fun stuff going into this. All right, everyone, we're at the last bit of our of our presentations and of our meetings. So I hope everybody got what you could out of it. Want to just bring up that there is a MAPE hour. They're going to be doing the Esri UC recap. This isn't what John had talked about. This is something different, but John's is later on in August. But if you can join us at between 5 and 7 p.m. today. Felicia has added the link into the chat. You can see it right there. So if you want more information about how to move forward and join us for this, use that link and it will get you there. But really, really thank everybody for being here. Thank you, Christine, for being a part of that, and all you that opened up over at Roll Call. I thought that was a very, very great session today. Please follow us on Twitter at Tenris to stay up to speed on what's going on. And I think the forum is going to be a good forum this year. Please plan to attend. Work with your finance people if you need to make sure you can, and we'll have more information out on our website. We'll also be tweeting it out as we get more information. So Felicia, am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yep. Hopefully people will reach out to us if they have any questions.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. I know everybody's busy, but appreciate you spending that time with us, and we will see you in October for the next quarterly meeting, and everybody have a great rest of your day. Take care.